Tryna see what we can do. You should come and show me, cause I ain't tryna.
Hey Vadgesters, I'm back and we are on one of my favorite topics. Now, you may have seen my Instagram live interview with Mr. Wayne from the I Talk Great podcast last week, and we had a really rousing discussion that had some interesting feedback on the topic in the comments. Unfortunately, as you know, the way Instagram live is set up, whatever the comments are in the live, they don't transfer over to when the video is made into a post. So we lost all that feedback. But we were discussing a myriad of topics, one of which was adult toys. And the conversation was great. And in typical fashion, when it comes to talking about things of adult nature, there was some feedback that was less than positive, right? One of those comments called the use of toys demon behavior. So I do want to expound on this a little bit. I got a little margarita mix. Shout out to Natalie's all natural juices. They have a margarita mix that is all natural, no preservatives, and I mixed it with a little bit of Ray and Neff. So bear with me on this one. So the first thing I want to start off with is that sex toys are a normal and healthy part of many people's sex lives. They can be used to enhance pleasure, explore one's sexuality, and improve communication between partners. However, there is still a lot of stigma around owning and using sex toys. So if you are a sex toy user, you may not feel like this is a weird topic. However, there are a lot of people who may even use toys but still feel ashamed about it. And there's a number of reasons why. One of the reasons is that sex is still a taboo subject in many cultures. And when you're in a melting pot like the United States, for example, there's going to be a varying level of discomfort when it comes to talking about sex based on the person's cultural background, social background, etc. So people may feel uncomfortable talking about sex, let alone using toys to enhance it. Additionally, some people may have religious or moral objections to sex toys. Now, I think this is where the demon behavior topic came in. However, the person had some other conflicting feedback about other parts of sex, which is par for the course when it comes to this kind of discussion, right? Another reason for the stigma is that sex toys are often associated with promiscuity or sexual deviance. This is simply not true, of course. Sex toys can be used by people of all sexual orientations and lifestyles. They are simply a tool for pleasure and exploration. And I use this a lot. And we talked about this quite a bit during the live. It is not meant to be a replacement for human touch, human interaction, intimacy. It is simply an enhancement, right? Um, for a single person, it may be an enhancement that allows them to pleasure themselves without the use of a partner, especially if they are trying to abstain or be celibate, or they just got out of a breakup, or they're in between relationships. There's a number of reasons why a single person would use a toy during their alone time. Couples do this as well, and it's basically to act as a conduit for increasing stimulation. Sometimes it does things that your partner is literally unable to do. And we touched on this quite a bit during the conversation. So there's nothing demonic about this. Now, just like anything that is used as a tool, something can be made for good and be used for evil. So I think the topic really could have been discussed in better depth if that individual was more receptive, but they were just not having it. And I will say this, I grew up in the church. Never did my pastor talk about sex or sex toys with us openly. So if I had that experience and I had to figure these things out for myself, or I had to learn about these things elsewhere, I'm sure that there are a lot of people, young and otherwise, that go to church or were raised in church and had the same level of confusion or the same interest in having these conversations, but not having the right pathway or the right place to have these talks. And that's where I come in now, right? So I think a lot of times people will say things like, oh, that's demon behavior, because it's something that they don't necessarily understand. And in certain cultures and certain religious sects, um, pleasure, especially self pleasure, is deemed bad. We are only supposed to be holding ourselves for our partner. We're not supposed to be finding pleasure in self exploration. In fact, there are some cultures that still believe that missionary is the only way. So there's a lot of things that people are trying to unlearn and learn at the same time, and it can cause quite a bit of confusion. So I understood where they were coming from, but I just want to say that there's nothing demonic about enjoying supplements for sexual pleasure. Can they be used in demonic activities? Sure. Yes, absolutely. Just like anything else, you can use a human body in demonic activities if you so choose. So the stigma around sex toys can have a number of negative consequences. It can prevent people from accessing a healthy and enjoyable part of their sexuality. It can also lead to feelings of shame and guilt. Additionally, the stigma can make it difficult for people to talk about sex, especially talking about sex toys with their partners, which can lead to communication problems. So, for example, if one partner has the belief that using sex toys is a healthy aid in their sex life, and then the other partner comes in and they have spent most of their adult life, if not all, believing that sex toys are not a good thing to use in the bedroom, there can be discourse when it comes to agreeing on what is being introduced in the bedroom and what is not. This can also cause issues with setting boundaries, because maybe you want to try, but deep down inside you feel guilty about it. So you transfer that guilt onto your partner. Maybe you don't believe that they should be incorporated in the bedroom, but they already have toys. How are these topics being broached among couples? If there's no safe space to discuss them, there's no safe space to say, hey, let's talk about this. I noticed you have a couple of these. Like, what did you do with them before? So there is a gray area when it comes to communication and introducing adult toys into a relationship. And I feel like until we have more of these conversations, it's going to continue to be difficult for other adults to have healthy talks and have healthy decision making permitted in their bedroom. So let's get this demon talk up out of here. It is important to remember that there's nothing wrong with owning or using sex toys. They are a normal and healthy part of many people's sex lives. And if you're considering using sex toys, there are a few things you can do to reduce the stigma. The first thing is to educate yourself. There are a number of resources available online to talk about sex toys. You have resources like me, for example, on v4vag.com. We discuss sex toys in many forms. We talk about top toys of the year. We talk about different toy types, how they work, which zones they stimulate. So that way you can have a better understanding of where you are in the needs category or the wants category, and how the toys can enhance or provide that for you. You can talk to a trusted friend or partner about your interest in sex toys. If you have that friend, it's usually me. But if you have that friend, they are open and willing to talk to you about the things that they've tried. They are open and willing to make suggestions for you. We talked about this on the live as well. I used to give sex toy store tours. So we would go to the major retailer in the neighborhood. In our neighborhood, that's Mega Sex. There's also the Hustler store. So we would go to the store and I would walk them around the store, a group of friends, and we would touch the sample products. We would talk about the different kinds of toys there. There's always like a giant fist on display and everybody wants to know what that's for, or how does that work. And we would have deeper discussions about it in the store so that they had an opportunity to see the things that they were interested in and potentially shop for them. So it was a nice experience. I did discontinue those tours because I started carrying toys myself. I opened my own store, and B, sometimes those stores aren't necessarily the safest place to have these discussions because there's other people in there for other reasons, or the most comfortable space. Shop for sex toys at reputable stores or websites. Now, again, we talked about this on the live. You can order toys from Amazon. The challenge with ordering toys from a website like that is that it's basically just a marketplace for vendors. These people don't necessarily have the knowledge to give you the information on what you need. They're not going to necessarily want to talk to you by messenger about erogenous zones and what you're using the toy for. Most of these vendors are obviously for profit, but they're just selling what they manufacture. So having conversations on Amazon or eBay or wherever is not necessarily the best place to get information on the toys that you're trying to buy, because for the most part, they're just going to talk to you about specs. They will talk to you about price. They will talk to you about color options. They're not really going to talk to you about how the toy actually works to please you. So make sure wherever you're choosing your toys from, you are shopping with reputable vendors on reputable websites so that you know that there's someone behind that screen that can actually support you in your needs. And they're not just there to take your money. And lastly, on that, be open and honest with your partner about your desire to use sex toys. If it's something that you're exploring for the first time, or if it's something that you're used to and you and your partner have not actually broached that yet, this is a great opportunity for you to say, I'm interested in bringing this in here. What are your thoughts? Is there a specific kind that you would prefer? Are you open to the idea? How do you feel about this? And then you meet each other in the middle somehow. Sometimes it's a hard no, and you're going to have to be okay with that. But there may be a way to explore these options and try them at least to see if it's going to be an option for you in your relationship. And by educating yourself and talking openly about sex toys, you can help break down the stigma and create a more accepting environment for everyone. So my goal, of course, as your friendly neighborhood sexpert, is to have these discussions with you in a safe, confidential, private environment so that you can get all the data that you need to make an informed decision. We will talk about erogenous zones. We'll talk about physiology, how these things work specifically for you, what zones you have tried that worked for you, what didn't work. And then we will look at products based on that to make sure that you're making the best decision for you and that you have a large choice list to choose from. Because there's nothing more empowering than the right to choose and being able to say, I do like clitoral stimulation. Do I like suction? Do I like vibration? Do I like puffs of air? What options are out there? Is it just the things that I see on ads that pop up on my phone? Is it just what I walk past when I'm sneaking in the back of the adult store? Like, what are the options available to me and how can I use them in a healthy way? That's the kinds of conversations that we have. And I really appreciate platforms like I Talk Gray welcoming me on board to have these conversations because it is a very special niche. It's a very special place where not all adults are comfortable and not all podcasters, bloggers, vloggers feel like their audience is going to want to hear all of this, and it may turn them off, even though they might be using them at home or they might be interested in this information. They might not be comfortable listening or watching these things and having these discussions. So I'm hoping that over time, as it has been, we can have more of these conversations. We can answer more of these questions. A lot of the viewers had great feedback. They had great questions and commentary, and we were able to kind of vibe, even though we were reading those comments and having the conversation one on one. it was amazing. So shout out to all 300 of you that tuned in. You know, I really appreciate that. And I hope that these conversations will continue so that we can get sex education into our neighborhoods, into our adult living rooms, bedrooms, wherever we are. Because as people of color, especially as Black people, it is not necessarily a safe place for us all the time. And where can we get this information? Where can we feel empowered? Where can we feel smart? Where can we feel sexy and feel safe at the same time without being fetishized or stigmatized or generalized? That's what I'm here for. And that's my goal. So this is another quickie. Hopefully you guys found this valuable. I look forward to talking with you guys again. I'm actually finally opening up my workshops and planning events. So we will be in person very soon. So thank you again for tuning in. If you have any questions, it's KIMI@v4vag.com. I will talk to you soon. Vag out.
To the moon.
Hey Samir.
To the moon.
Hey Samir.